discussing production and delivery numbers at Tesla Q1 2024. Definitely way under expectations. This is a big disappointment for us. We were expecting something in the 400,000 range, and it came in at 380,000. Production 433,000, adding inventory. This is not a good situation. Tesla is in a crisis. There is a demand pocket. Now, there are reasons why this is happening. We're going to go through them. Some are hopeful, some are not so hopeful. I think the biggest news today, other than this pretty ugly delivery and production number, is that they launched FSD for everybody as a trial. So that's good. That's hopeful. I think we can expect a higher adoption. This is part of the thesis of Tesla has always been that they turn into a software-driven company, a software-defined car. All of these things are still intact. I'm actually using FSD right now. I'm driving from Santa Cruz to back to Los Altos, and it's amazing. It's certainly a big feast of technology that, in my opinion, is unmatched. But we have to, deal with the short-term problem. Hopefully, it's short-term. We'll see if it's short-term or not. But we'll go through that. We'll go through that. Right now, there is a problem. There is a fundamental problem, and the fundamental problem is that there is less demand than the production capacity of Tesla. And the answer to the question why is also the answer to whether one should be invested in Tesla at all. There's always the short term and the long term. There's a lot of things to consider here. The purpose of this podcast is to give people a sense for what it feels like to run a hedge fund. And this is really, really serious now because we had a lot of hiccups in Tesla in the past. Most of them were macro driven. Sometimes they were driven by the company. For example, when the Model 3 production ramp didn't go as planned. So there was definitely a lot of, there were issues in the past. This is a new type of problem because we have a demand problem, and this is very new to Tesla. Certainly, it's expected to have this type of situation right now when we have a ramp in the millions of cars per year, and not when it was only 10, 20,000, of course. But still, I mean, this is just something we really need to seriously discuss. This is an Odd and Wrong podcast. It's April 2nd, 2024. This is Krim Telco. For the day, the fund is down 4%. The market is flat. For the year, we are down 20.7%. The market is up 10%. We're underperforming by 30.7%. Now, what is going on here? First, again, the numbers are such that Tesla has delivered 380,000 cars in the first quarter. Expectation was 420. Production was 430. So we're roughly 50,000 more production than delivery. We keep adding inventory. This is not a good situation. No matter how you turn it and slice it, this is not a good situation. Now, I want to give a couple of reasons why we believe this is happening. Number one, there is Osborne effect in Model 3. The Highline Model 3 was launched in the first quarter in the US. It was launched in the fourth quarter in China. So we had some, this transition is just, holding back people. There was probably a bit less demand than one would have expected. This transition from Model 3 old to Model 3 new, it's going to cost a little bit of demand, and this is certainly one reason. The second reason is we had a massive inventory drawdown from Hertz and other large buyers, rental car companies and also corporate companies in Germany, for example, that were selling their inventory because they didn't want to, give Teslas to their employees. Now, whether that is a long-term structural problem or just a short-term problem, that's a different conversation. But in this first quarter, we probably had, I would say, easy, 30 to 50,000 cars more than usual on the market, used car type cars. They certainly drew down demand for new cars, and that has probably driven some of the demand softness. Then we have China. China is weak. BYD also had weak numbers. And when I say China, there's two aspects to China. One is the competitive situation. The other is the actual demand for cars in China. The Chinese consumer is weak, and that is also reflected in a weak demand for Teslas. Now, there's a couple of other reasons that are more common in the press. For example, the political situation in the US, the polarizing factor of Elon Musk, uh, things like woke people who tend to like to buy electric cars are not on the side of Tesla. Now, my argument to put that there's a couple of things. Actually, let me do this here. Let me first use the sort of common arguments and refute them, and then hopefully get a synthesis of things that we think are really happening and that aren't just some headline stuff. So, number one, political polarization. By nature, polarization should mean both sides, right? So if you piss off both people and they don't want to buy Teslas, well, on the margin, you should also encourage some people that might not have been interested in Tesla to buy Teslas. It can't just be one side. It can't just be that all the woke people stop buying electric cars or stop buying Teslas, and that all the non sort of woke people who are on the side of Elon Musk and his political views are now all of a sudden, and they should also be buying on the margin a little bit more Tesla. So it can't just be one sided. Now, the argument there is that, well, the people who are against woke, so let's say the right wing, they are gas guzzling lovers and they will not budge and things like that. But I'm talking about the marginal buyer. I'm not talking about your average redneck, back in the woods, gun loving, crazy person. I'm talking about normal people, suburban people in Ohio, in Texas, in Minnesota, who just make a rational decision: which car should I buy, X or Y? And given that situation, we should have, again, it should be a little bit more balanced. So I think we would refute that argument. The next argument, competition. Now, competition, I think, is not fully refutable. There is some competition in the EV space. We have on the high end companies like BMW selling luxury cars and things like that. And no matter what you think about that, there is certainly a bit of a draw, a novelty. Like you have this new BMW electric car with nice interior and things like that. So that's going to draw some demand away from Tesla, no matter what. We have the same situation in China. Now, the way we refute this argument is simply by volume and cost. And the main driver of Tesla, the main reason why we believe Tesla has a competitive advantage is because of cost. Tesla is able to deliver a car at cost, at the cost. I just had an intervention, by the way, and this intervention is, I've had this before. It's in the Santa Cruz Hills, and it's simply driven by the fact that the car is driving a little bit too fast in the curves. Now, why it's doing that? I think it's doing that because it's imitating people, and people tend to drive very fast and sort of on the curve of extremity, and I just don't like that. This is just me. I would say that overall the performance of the car is outstanding, but again, when it goes really really fast, it becomes a little bit uncomfortable in very tight curves in the Santa Cruz. It's back to the episode. So a company fundamentally will only survive and be a company in the long run if it has a cost structure that allows it to outcompete its competitors. And this is what Tesla has. So whether it's BMW, whether it's Xiaomi, whether it's whoever you want to name here, these companies are a short-term risk, but long-term they don't have a cost structure that has the potential to outcompete Tesla in terms of price and value on both sides. So what that means is one is price. I mean, a BMW all in is probably about 4 times the price of a Tesla. And on the Xiaomi side, the price might be competitive with Tesla, but then the cost structure is totally out of whack. We've seen that with NIO. We've seen that with pretty much any other Chinese company except Li. Li seems to have some sort of edge, whether that's real, whether they actually have this real capacity to deliver cars at that price that they claim to deliver and things like that. I don't know about that. With the Chinese companies, you have to put everything with a grain of salt. What we know is that BYD has um, has competitive cars in the market. They have the cost structure, and in the long run, we believe BYD is also the only competitor that we are really taking seriously in terms of cost and competition and the potential to also disrupt Tesla. One has to be very careful about that. That you could have a situation where the BYD comes from the low end and starts creeping up into the high end. But this is being answered by the low end car of Tesla. So in a sense, what I'm trying to say is that as far as competition is concerned, the metric that we look at is cost and value, and there Tesla is way ahead of its competition. And maybe this situation right now is almost a good thing because it's forcing the company to go back to the drawing board, to turn every stone, to cut costs again, and to be very, very nimble in terms of marketplace and what it takes. Now, having said that, in the long run, what we expect Tesla to do is what they laid out on Battery Day and on AI Day, which is we want low cost, low capital intensity, high volume, high value, software defined car that just beats everybody in the market. We are on the path to that. We have that with the Tesla product line, and therefore we believe long term the competition is not going to be an issue. Now, the short-term issues, like I said, for example, the inventory drawdown from the Hertz and these companies, that is, a 1-2 quarter type situation. So that should take care of itself. And then we have, I think, what we have is some macro issues, right? We have high interest rates. We have the China issue. Those are things that the car market as a whole is exposed to, not just Tesla, and we have to deal with that. But we believe that we are still in the books for 2 million year of deliveries at least, even though expectations are now lowered. This is a one-off quarter. It's not the first time that the first quarter of the year is pretty disappointing. It's happened before. So that's where we stand. We believe that the drawdown from the rental car companies is, to some extent still happening, but definitely had an impact. And what's important is also the inventory buildup. Tesla is anticipating a strong second, third, fourth quarter where they will go up to 500,000 cars delivered, if not more, per quarter. This is the expectation. This is why we're holding on to the stock. Now let's talk about full self-drive. Like full self-drive is a technology that is way ahead of its time in many ways. Technologically, Tesla has created a robot that is able to generalize across the real world. That's the first robot at scale that can do that. I've been involved in the academic community for the last 9 months, with all kinds of things, seminars, URIPs, bars, they learn. I'm going to CVPR this year. So I think I can attest that the academic community is certainly aware of this and also in awe of this, because whatever Tesla is doing here is way ahead of the academic community in terms of scale, in terms of precision, in terms of delivery of value, all kinds of things. Certainly, there are some academic papers and some experiments that are done here and there that are a little bit ahead of what Tesla's doing, maybe, I don't know, using advanced transformer architectures to maybe generalize across even more scenarios or have fewer shot learning, things along those lines. But what Tesla has done here is just outstanding. So the technology, the way we expect the technology to pan out is that Tesla will get higher adoption to FSD just by offering it now as a free trial. We believe that that's going to drive a lot of adoption because it's just so much more convenient to drive. But that's not enough. Convenience is a great factor, but imagine if Google had just been a little bit more convenient way to go to the library. And let's say Google had been something where you can go to the library and do a search, but you still have to print the books and copy and do all that stuff. Well, that would have been a nice tool for, let's say, researchers, but having Google Scholar, having all these papers archived, having everything on your fingertip, a double click away from every academic paper basically issued recently and in the past. That's really what drives the value of the internet and Google or any kind of other search technology as far as document search, things like that are concerned. So what I'm trying to do here is just show an analogy that we need a little bit more value. Now the technology is here, but the value will come from, for example, being able to summon the car over longer distances, being able to send the car to pick up your kid, send the car, take a walk with your wife along the beach, and then go 3 miles down this way, and then the car picks you up on the other side. Go for a walk, and then it starts raining. Yeah, car come pick me up. Like something that wasn't possible before. If you look at the history of technology, the big breakthroughs always happen when there is something that wasn't possible before. Yeah, the Polaroid moment. What's the Polaroid moment? The Polaroid moment is when Polaroid comes along and gives you instant pictures and kills Kodak. What is the iPhone moment? When we have a supercomputer in your pocket that just enabled many, many more use cases that were there before. Now we have a supercomputer on wheels here. The use cases are at this point still relatively similar, right? I still drive. I still hold to steering. I can't even use my phone. I can't even check my phone while I'm driving because there's a front-facing camera, things like that. But that's okay. That's okay. I am. I am. There was a little bit of a tricky lane merge right now, but that's okay. That's probably the first time that I was a bit uncomfortable with the actual way that this thing is driving. Uh, what I'm trying to say, sorry, I'm as I speak, I'm actually testing for the first time, FSD. So I'm pretty excited to be talking about FSD at the same time and its potential. So what is the potential? We have the technology again. Now, in order to monetize this technology, we're going to have to offer more value, and value will come through tasks, use cases, problem solving, right? And like I said, we need a little bit more meat around the bone in terms of what is. There's many problems that full self-driving can solve. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some arm wrestling with the regulators. It's going to take arm wrestling with the incumbents who are fighting tooth and nail to prevent FSD from proliferating. Because FSD is really the nail in the coffin for the car industry. No matter how you slice it and dice it, this is going to drive Tesla from a 2 million a year company to a 10 million cars a year company. Because once you have this software, once it's proven and in the consciousness of everybody that this is safer, more convenient, and solves many problems that you weren't able to solve before, people will pay. It's not that expensive, even if it's $10,000. It's not that much compared to what people are paying for things like insurance, cars, gasoline, and all that stuff. So, having said that, what is the conclusion here? So we have a terrible delivery and production report. Terrible in the sense that it's way under expectation. It is, justifying the bad stock performance. We expect further declines in the stock driven by that. There's no other way around that. But we're holding on to Tesla because this reminds us of the situation when AI Day 1 happened. On AI Day 1, the stock was down, I think, 5-6% that same day. To us, it was incomprehensible how a company with this kind of endeavor, their own chip manufacturing, their own software, their own backend, dojo, all of these things. This is just the beginning, right? We are just in the beginning of a phase of real-world AI, physics, robotics, problems along those lines, first on the driving side, but then also on the humanoid robot side will be solved, will be implemented, value will be added, and trillions of dollars of wealth creation is possible. That's why we're hanging on to Tesla. Thank you.